This is such an important day in our calendar. A year ago, I stood in a packed hall with Mindu Hornick, who's going to follow me very shortly. And I was thrilled to be able to personally congratulate her on the then very recent award of an MBE, which of course was so richly deserved. I have been so fortunate to have held many roles in my very privileged life, but if pressed, I might well find myself unhappily being described as an old lawyer. It's some time ago now, but I spent nearly half my life practicing law. And during those legal years, if I learned any skill of any daily practical use, it was to try and listen and then to seek to step into my client's shoes, thus hoping to provide advice that was relevant and appropriate to each particular case. But despite that, and despite a deep interest in history and the privilege of meeting several Holocaust survivors and indeed visiting Auschwitz-Birkenau myself, being able to gain any understanding of the experience of the Holocaust, to be able to step into those shoes, of course, has always been completely beyond me, and I'm sure that goes for all of us. What we can do is insist that we continue to learn and we continue to remember. There's a very apt quote from another old lawyer, Cicero, 2,000 years ago, when he said, "To be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is always to remain a child. For what is the worth of human life unless it is woven into the life of our ancestors by the records of history?" And there can be no greater lesson from the warnings of history than the Holocaust. But too often we find ourselves asking whether it is a lesson we have learned. Tragically, we still witness distressing examples of xenophobia and racism today. Of course, the events in Minneapolis on May the 25th last year immediately come to mind, but we're reminded only too regularly that anti-Semitic and other incidents of discrimination continue to grow, with increasing fractures within our own society and within societies around the globe. There is such a responsibility on all of us. Today's expression would be to call out, not just to tolerate, not be passive, but to speak up. It's our job absolutely to celebrate difference. In Cicero's words, to ensure that we weave the story of the Holocaust into the records of history. And that is what makes today so important. That in our hectic daily lives and the instant social media echo chambers that we all live in, we take this time out to pause and to reflect on the consequences of prejudice and hatred.
Holocaust Memorial Day's theme for 2021 is Be the Light in the Darkness. My name is Mindu Hornick. I am a survivor of the ghetto, Auschwitz concentration camp and slave labor camp in Germany. To be the light in the darkness encourages everyone to reflect on the depths that humanity can sink to, but also the ways that individuals and communities resisted the darkness. To be the light before, during, and after genocide. Divisions and misinformation in today's world means we must remain vigilant against hatred and identity-based hostility. We can all stand in solidarity. We can all choose to be the light in the darkness in a variety of ways and places, at home, in public, and online. Shining a light through my personal testimony is something which is, I feel, hugely important and something which I have done for over 20 years. I have visited schools, colleges, universities, and many various groups of organizations to educate and to inform of the tragic events that hatred and prejudice can result in, such as the Holocaust, which I am a survivor and a witness. For the international community, there is a responsibility to shine a light on the situation where people have been and still are persecuted and hold those responsible to account. We survivors will continue to do our best for as long as we can. Therefore, Holocaust Memorial Day enables us to remember for a purpose, to give us a responsibility to work for a better and safer future for everyone. We can now all step up and use our talents to tackle prejudice, discrimination, and intolerance wherever we encounter them. We can be assured that the second generation is in place and will continue to light a candle long after us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Laurie Taylor, and on behalf of Kol Kinor Choir, I thank the organisers of this event for inviting the choir to take part. Kol Kinor Choir is Birmingham-based, has been singing together for over 30 years, and is the only mixed voice choir outside London which sings exclusively Jewish music. Our musical director is Jake Pfeiffer, and our piano accompanist is Brian Stern. Kol Kinor translates from Hebrew as voice of the lyre being one of the ancient instruments known to have been played in the Temple of Solomon. Tonight you will hear us sing two pieces which were composed during the Holocaust, and I will give a brief introduction to both. The first piece is sung in the original Yiddish, the everyday language of the Ashkenazi Jews of Central Europe for many centuries, being a mixture of Hebrew and High German. The song is called Dremlen Fagel, Birds Are Drowsing, a lullaby from the Vilna ghetto in Lithuania, where 40,000 Jews were imprisoned and died between 1941 and 1943. Only a few hundred survived by resisting the Nazis and escaping into the woods. The words were composed by Leah Rudnitska, the music by Leib Yampolsky. Birds are drowsing in the branches. Sleep, my dear child. By your cradle on a bench, a stranger sings to you. Your cradle was once woven out of happiness, but now your mother will never return. I saw your father running under a hail of stones, and his far and lonely wail flew over the fields. second song is called Eli, Eli, My God, My God. It is a poem composed in 1942 by Hannah Senesh, a Hungarian Jewess, whilst living in Kibbutz Sdot Yam, part of Mandate Palestine. After serving in the Jewish Defense Force of the Haganah, Senesh joined Special Operations Executive, trained as a parachutist, and completed missions into Hungary to rescue Hungarian Jews. In 1944, she was captured by the Nazis, tortured, tried, and executed, but never disclosed any details of her mission. The song is commonly played on Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day in Israel. The words were set to music in 1945 by Israeli composer David Zehavi. The English translation reads as follows: my God, may it never end, the sand and the sea, the rustle of the water, the brilliance of the sky, the prayer of man.
Today we remember the 6 million Jews, including the 1.5 million children who perished in the Holocaust. It's hard to sense the sheer scale of destruction. On September 11, 2001, history was changed by a terrorist attack in which 3,000 people died. During the Holocaust, on average, 3,000 Jews were killed every day of every week for 5.5 years. And the killing didn't stop with just Jews. The mentally ill, the physically handicapped, gypsies and gays were murdered because they were different. And today, we remember. The theme of today's commemoration is Be a Light in the Darkness. Just over a year ago, I was privileged to visit the village of Buttenhausen in Germany, where my grandfather grew up, and his father, Rabbi Naftali Berlinger, was the last rabbi. Naftali was a realist. He understood the danger that he faced and worked to secure visas to enable his children to escape Germany. But he refused to leave. saying that the responsibility of the rabbi is to be there for the community. And indeed, during those dark years of persecution, he was a beacon of light to those unable to leave. When the Nazis came to burn down the synagogue, the non-Jewish mayor of the town blocked their way, showing by example what it means to be a person who brings light to the world rather than imposes darkness. Unfortunately, the next day the Nazis returned with reinforcements, arrested the mayor, and caused a different kind of light when they burnt the synagogue to the ground, a light born of hatred and evil. Almighty God, help us to remember and to learn. May you, who has given us life, teach us to hold it sacred, in faithfulness to you and generosity to those around us, so that by reaching out in love we may turn enemies into friends and become your family on earth as you are our parent in heaven. The Lubavitcher Rebbe once said, just as the Nazis hunted down every Jew with hatred, we have a mission today to hunt down every person with love and with friendship to bring light into the world.
Today is our opportunity to remember the 6 million Jewish men, women and children who were murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators. We are the last generation to hear from those who survived the Holocaust. The Holocaust is living history, but as that living history descends into distant history, it's our responsibility to ensure that the lessons of the Holocaust remain as poignant and as accessible as they are now. We must never forget that the Nazis and their collaborators sought to murder Jewish people, tear apart Jewish life and remove Jewish culture from this world. In remembering the people, the lives and the culture Nazism sought to destroy, we counter every essence of that evil. We can look any Nazi or neo-Nazi, Holocaust denier or anti-Semite in the eye and say, you have failed. Being a light in the darkness is more than just a commitment. It is a real challenge. The Holocaust is an example of humanity at its worst. It teaches us the capacity mankind has for violence and for hate. Often, we consider the perpetrators of the Holocaust as monsters, some other beings that are remote and far removed from ourselves. It perhaps seems incomprehensible that these monsters were also educated and cultured, enjoyed the arts and literature, but were also responsible for the most barbaric, industrialised genocide we have seen in recent history. Humanity comprises of that eternal fight between our demons and our better angels. We must ensure that light prevails where darkness would otherwise succeed. Now, a few years ago, I was fortunate to attend a service at Auschwitz to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust. The rabbi who led that service said that love and knowledge were just like the candles we were holding. We do not lose any of our light by sharing it with others. We simply make ourselves and the world brighter. Our commitment must be to no longer be passive bystanders, but henceforth become active upstanders. That is the commitment I shall make, and I hope my generation shall make this Holocaust Memorial Day. And I invite you to join me in doing the same. Thank you.
As we mark the anniversary of Holocaust Memorial Day, during unprecedented circumstances in the pandemic, let us remember those who have sacrificed their lives. Let us remember all those in various atrocities around the world who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Let us be the light in the darkness. As Chair of the West Midlands Combined Authority Faith Strategic Partnership, we offer heartfelt prayers and invite you all to remember those fallen ones and call for solidarity, peace, harmony, unity, in raising a voice against injustice wherever it may rear its ugly head. Let us be the light in the darkness for them all.
We recognise that the Holocaust shook the foundations of modern civilization. Its unprecedented character and horror will always hold universal meaning. We believe the Holocaust must have a permanent place in our nation's collective memory. We honour the survivors still with us and reaffirm our shared goals of mutual understanding and justice. We must make sure that future generations understand the causes of the Holocaust and reflect upon its consequences. We vow to remember the victims of Nazi persecution and of all genocide. We value the sacrifices of those who have risked their lives to protect or rescue victims as a touchstone of the human capacity for good in the face of evil.
We recognise that humanity is still scarred by the belief that race, religion, disability or sexuality makes some people's lives worth less than others. Genocide, anti-Semitism, racism, xenophobia and discrimination still continue. We have a shared responsibility to fight these evils. We pledge to strengthen our efforts to promote education and research about the Holocaust and other genocides. We will do our utmost to make sure that the lessons of such events are fully learnt. We will continue to encourage Holocaust remembrance by holding an annual UK Holocaust Memorial Day. We condemn the evils of prejudice, discrimination and racism. We value a free, tolerant and democratic society.